Elpida scrambled out of her coffin and landed on cold metal. The drop to the floor was a greater distance than she'd expected. Her joints were stiff as fresh-drawn wire, and her soles were slicked with that thin, greasy fluid. Lances of red light strobed and stabbed, a flicker of electric blood in the air. The alarm pulsed out a moaning dirge. Voices screamed in terror and pain, sobbed deep and hard, and laughed on the edge of loss. Training took over. Elpida's body became a coiled spring, fists raised for contact, eyes darting for a weapon or an enemy. She ignored the confusion, the screaming, the pain, and found nothing to fight. There was no Silico war monster dismantling victims bone by bone. No Legion soldiers pointing guns into a shivering huddle of bodies. No apparent threat for all her training to unleash itself upon. Just 4 other girls, disgorged from metal boxes just like her. Naked, shivering, red glazed flesh in the pulsing light. Last out, howled a laughing voice. The alarm died with a metallic screech. The red emergency light guttered out, clearing the blood from walls and floor and skin, leaving behind antiseptic white glare. Elpida just stood, mouth agape. Hospital ward, reactor core, machine womb. The room was a nightmare, and it was not Telecopolis. Elpida knew her city's hidden guts. She had walked across the buried fields, and over the shielded fusion generators below ground level. She had witnessed a combat frame under construction, the unspeakable machine meat implanted as physical seeds. Nunas had once shown her the heavily guarded forges, where nanomachinery was bred in soupy gray vats, spied through armored glass, because to enter would mean agonizing death. She had visited both the gleaming tip of the spire, and the ragged edges of the skirts. As commander of the Special Project Cadre, she had known all the city's dirty secrets. And this place wasn't home. The resurrection chamber was a cavern of metal, easily as large as a combat frame hangar, the ceiling hundreds of feet above Elpida's head, lost in a thick tangle of tubes and cables and cross beams. The floor was dense with machinery, banks of black glass blocks marched off toward distant walls, glowing inside with pinpoint lights and burning circuitry. Oblong fluid tanks squatted at regular intervals like gigantic dead toads, amid a field of petrified trees, empty now, but their insides were smeared with a faint glowing blue residue, the color of Cherenkov radiation, of rampant mold, of unbounded electricity. Curved nozzles of sweeping tunnel were attached to the ceiling, reaching almost to the floor, thick as trees, wrapped with torn plastic membranes and stress-torn wiring, their gaping dark ends dripping with that same faint bluish glow, like umbilicals freshly detached from some monstrous birth. The whole of one wall was taken up by a rippling, bubbling, leaden surface, like a computer readout made of living metal. Numbers and nonsense scrolled upward on that gigantic display, so fast that Elpida's eyes rebelled and tore themselves away from the sight. Once, out in the deep green, Elpida and 3 members of the cadre had brought down a large-scale Silico war monster by tearing its skull open. They'd stood and watched the brain die, fascinated that something so seemingly alien was grown here on Earth, cloned from terrestrial matter. Just like them. This room was worse. It was like nothing she'd ever seen. All of this machinery was focused on the center of the room, on a wide rectangle of stainless steel flooring, freezing cold against Elpida's bare feet. The rectangle sloped a little toward a drain grill, just off-center. At one end stood a human-scale control panel, a slab of esoteric metal and opaque plastic, banks of tiny screens and rows of buttons, thousands of switches and dials and toggles, tiny orange and red warning lights. None of it was labeled. Hundreds of braided wires, thick bundles of cable, and high-throughput fluid lines led inward from the edge of that stainless steel rectangle to the undersides of 12 identical coffins. 2 rows of 6. Each coffin was raised on a plinth, like an operating table, or a sarcophagus. Elpida's box lay at the end of one row, nearest to the control panel. Of the 12 metal containers, 7 others stood open, 6 lids had slid upward on smooth hydraulics, not failed like Elpida's. A 7th box had been torn open from the inside, the lid hanging in loose twists of ruined metal. The remaining 4 coffins were still closed. 3 tracks of slick amniotic slime led away from the 7 open boxes, in the opposite direction from the control panel. Across 100 feet of bare metal, past dense-packed alien machinery, the slime trails resolved into jumbled footprints, then dried out. A human-sized door stood beyond the footprints, flanked by a set of lockers. 4 other human beings shivered in this steel cradle, all naked, all in shock, all coated in that oily transparent fluid from inside the coffins. Exposed to the air, the goo was rapidly drying, starting to crumble away in big soft flakes. The white light revealed a faint blue tint in the drying slime. Elpida could feel it in her mouth, coating the inside of her nostrils, the tube of her throat, the orbs of her eyeballs. It tasted bitter and organic, like raw plant matter. Furthest from Elpida, at the end of the row of coffins, was the girl who'd been crying in deep sorrow. Flame red hair slicked to her neck and shoulders, skin pale and white, freckles thick on her face. Athletic, lean, maybe the same age as Elpida. She was down on her knees, cradling the chrome and matte of a brand new bionic right arm in her lap. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying, But by the time Elpida recovered from the shock of the room, the red-haired girl had brought herself under strict control. She watched the rest of them with empty, cold eyes. 2 coffins closer was a young woman up on her feet, slender and slight as a sapling, tall and elegant and darkly brown, with something of severe nobility about her face, and her short cropped dark hair. She was no older than Elpida either. Her right eye had been replaced with what Elpida guessed was a full-spectrum bionic, a solid ball of peat green, innumerable tiny lenses flickering and dancing behind a layer of bioplastic. She was in rapture, both eyes wide, mouth hanging open, staring at the machinery around them. Down on the floor right next to Elpida was a third girl, equally brown but much smaller, built compact and hard like a boxer. Messy dark hair, visibly in need of cutting even despite the weight of the sticky fluid, neat little nose, bright dancing eyes. She was also lost in awe, staring down at her own body with sick relief. She was whole. No bionics. The fourth girl was more metal than flesh. Standing by the control panel was the single most heavily augmented human Elpida had ever seen, worse than any grizzled Legion veteran. Her skin was pale peach, similar to the now sober redhead, her build petite and tiny. The slime in her dull blonde hair had nearly finished drying, leaving it clumped and sticking up. Her delicate boned face was alight with manic energy, gray eyes like burning lead. As Elpida met those eyes, the augmented girl started laughing again, hysterical and broken by hiccups, almost hyperventilating. Her legs and arms were both bionics. Sweeping curves of solid black and warning red, no concession made for cosmetic humanity. Each finger terminated in a hooked red claw. The girl retracted and extended these claws with a shick noise as she laughed. Her feet were similar, more like raptor talons than simian digits, and they did not retract. She clicked on the metal when she moved. A black and red tail curved from the base of her spine. Armored, segmented, matching her bionic limbs, 6 feet long and thick as 4 of her arms combined. The structure was tipped with a red spike. A stinger. Elpida had never seen anything like it before. Non-human body plan bionics on a human being. 2 voices were still screaming from inside their coffins. Directly opposite Elpida, and 2 coffins down from her, a pair of voices were still confined inside cold metal. The one opposite sounded like she was in terrible pain. The one down sounded so afraid she was going to tear her vocal cords. Nobody was moving to help. Failure glued Elpida's soles to the freezing steel floor. 24 pairs of ghostly hands sealed around her ankles. Her dead cadre held her back. Led from the front, old lady Nana's scratching voice echoed in memory. Led by example. They filled your head with nonsense. You were not born to lead. Nobody is. You earn it, and you earn it by the act. Elpida had already led from the front, even before those words. Right from when the cadre was 6 years old, the first time they'd worked together to bring down something bigger than any single one of them, their first fight, their first kill. Elpida hadn't planned it, but she brought the planners together. She hadn't been the most aggressive girl, but she'd guided the aggression of Howl and Metris in the right direction. She hadn't landed the killing blow, but she'd aimed it, permitted it, and taken responsibility for it. The cadre was her and she was the cadre. And she'd never left anybody behind, not even a corpse. And now they were all dead, because of her mistakes. What right did she have to lead? In the end, Elpida moved only because she knew no other way of existing. In 3 strides, she was next to the coffin opposite. She banged on the lid. Hey, you're not alone, she called through the unyielding metal. I'm gonna get you out, a yowl of pain answered. It might have been a word,